Hey everybody! So today we're going to talk about the 11th house in the natal chart. Continue on with our houses. Here's the card for it. And the 11th house has an affinity for Aquarius, an air sign energy. It deals a lot with other people in a more universal way, in a more collectively focused, collective way. So the 11th house areas of life are things like humanitarian and social causes, groups of people. This could be acquaintances. It can also be friends. Friends definitely fall under here. Now, I also want to make mention of, okay, so you can have friendships that are more like general friendships. They're maybe not super intimate, but they're friendship. I do feel like there is a difference here. The really close, intimate friendships that you have with people, like your ride or die fucking best friend sort of thing, that person, while they might shine through the 11th house, they probably also will be seen in the 7th. Since the 7th house is close, intimate relationships don't have to be romantic. They tend to get lumped that way, tends to get thought of that way, but it doesn't have to be. Just really close relationships in general. These would be your friends. I don't know, if you have like a group of friends, a good group of friends, or even if you don't have a group of friends, but you've just got friends that you keep in contact with, you're close to, may or may not be your ride or die best friend, but friends fall here. A question that I've seen posted different places is like, what kind of friends should I have? What kind of people do I need in my life? Perhaps you have a difficult time with friends, or with finding friends, with putting yourself out there enough to find friends, or things of that nature. That tends to be why that question is asked. So when you're looking at that sort of thing, you'd want to look at where the planetary ruler for the 11th house falls in your chart. Like, let's say you've got, let's say you've got Pisces ruling your 11th house cusp. So the way that you would approach friendships might be more creative. It might be more imaginative. It might be more dreamlike, right? Idealistic. It also might be a little unrealistic, maybe. So that's how you approach friendships. Maybe. There are other things you could throw in there, but maybe that's how you approach them. So you'd want to look at where both Neptune, which is the modern ruler of Pisces, and Jupiter, which is the traditional ruler of Pisces, fall in your chart. To give you another idea of the sort of friends that perhaps would be best for you. I don't know. Can't think of an example right off the top of my head on the fly like that, but you would want to look to where those two planets are by sign and house. Perhaps they are in a difficult aspect. That might show some difficulty with friendships. Perhaps they are in a harmonious aspect. Maybe that shows an ease with friends. That's not universal, but it is something to consider. Same thing with any aspects that the ruler of the 11th house makes in your chart for concepts dealing with friendship and all of that. So with the 11th house ruling over things, with the 11th house dealing with things like humanitarian causes and social issues, depending on what sign rules the house cusp, it'll kind of tell you how you feel about those things as well. It'll also tell you, how I mentioned before, it'll tell you how you feel about friendships too. So let's say you've got Virgo ruling over the cusp of the 11th. Perhaps you take a practical approach to friends and to the social causes that you take up. Perhaps you take an efficient approach when it comes to those things. You want your friendships to function efficiently. You want your any humanitarian efforts you take up to be efficient. Things like that. Could also mean that you want the perfect of these things as well. And then you want to also, again, look at where, say, Mercury falls in your chart to see what house the 11th house will bend to. Give its power to. So this is also a house that deals with the internet and networking. Social media would certainly fall here. I know people, I've seen it said that social media actually is a third house thing. I disagree, because technology and the internet is very much an 11th house thing. Social media is online for the most, social media is online. So I was going to say, is it anywhere else? No, it's not. It's online in some capacity. So to me, this is very much an 11th house thing. Of course, the way you communicate in general, that is a third house thing. I guess it ties in that way, but things like social media, that would really be 11th house. And the networking that we do, the way that we network, the way that we make contacts with many people would be an 11th house thing. Okay, so since it's on the opposite end of the axis from the 5th house is all about your creative self-expression. So here in the 11th, you're dealing with how you share those creative talents and those things that you create with the world. How do you do that? The sign that rules the 11th house cusp will kind of show you how, or give you an idea as to how. And any planets falling in the 11th house will also show this. We'll show that as well. Help to show that as well. Let me see. Also sorry, I'm looking at the card to make sure I'm not missing anything. On the topic of the 11th house and the 5th house, that axis. Okay, so 5th house deals with the children that you have, that you create yourself, that are biological. The 11th house deals with children like bonus kids, stepchildren, adopted children, foster children, all of those sorts of children relationships would fall here in the 11th house. So if you have any adopted kids or you have a desire to adopt, this would be the house that you would want to look at for that. Or even, I'm tempted to say, if you yourself were adopted, the 11th house, I would think, would be a player in that. In your overall chart makeup, to some extent, it would play in. Just by virtue of you being adopted too. Let me see. Intellectual security. It falls here as well. Now, this is intellectual security that you feel with other people, right? How secure you feel with your own intellect, with groups of people, and things of that nature. So, depending on any planets that fall there, and depending on the sign that rules the house cusp, it'll give you an idea of how you handle that. Obviously, logic, reason, intellect, that sort of intellect is a third house thing. But this is more how you express this with other people, how this comes out with other people, how secure you feel in your own intellect with other people. It falls in this house, that sort of thing. And long-term goals, hopes, and wishes. That's such a big deal to this house. This house is very forward. It's very progressive. It's always aiming to the future. So long-term future, not like goals that you have for next year. I mean, we're talking about goals that you have for 10 years from now, kind of thing. That would be found in this house. What are your long-term goals, hopes, and wishes? And how do you express those? And how easy of a time do you have actually attaining them? So, yeah. I think that's probably about it. I like to keep these at like 10, 11 minutes. So, yeah. If you don't already, follow us on Instagram at Let's Fuck With Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Abaturno Astrology on Instagram. And if you're watching these on Instagram, you can find us on our YouTube channel at Let's Fuck With Astrology. And join us on our subreddit at our Let's Fuck With Astrology. All right. I'll see y'all later.